essay titled Howl of the Husky. For younger, I think people, certainly people born after the baby boom or Gen X, might not realize that husky was a category of youth clothing, or at
Yes.
least for boys. I don't know if there were husky girls as well. What
I don't
was
think there were.
husky? Yeah, what?
So Husky was you can't fit in the regular clothes. And it was a sub, it was a it said over the aisle,
Yeah,
Husky. And if you
yeah,
entered that aisle, wherever it was you were buying clothes,
yeah,
you now have a label. You're Husky.
yeah.
And it wasn't like we're not saying you're fat,
Right,
you're Husky. And
right.
I wonder, I've never been able to find out who decided that was the word. Husky.
Yeah.
Where, what, why that? Why not slightly balloon like? One of these days I'll figure out the marketing
Yeah,
person that came up with that. But yes, we were,
yeah.
American boys were absolutely labeled once you became a little thick,
You're
which
like
I
plus
certainly did.
size, kind of, but not
Yes, but
obese,
I,
but
I,
but
I would dare you to walk into a women's wear store and look for an aisle that says plus size.
yeah,
It might be the whole store is kind of gauged in that
yeah.
direction. But no, Husky, and it's gone now. I don't think we see
Yeah,
Husky.
and you became husky because you were eating too much, right? After,
Yes,
the loss of your father and
yes.
yeah,
It
as a
wasn't
kid.
just it wasn't just eating too much. It was what I was eating, which was
Mhm.
massive amounts of crap,
Yeah.
um, a lot of crap. Yeah.
Can you talk about what snapped you out of that? Because you also have it's a fascinating, if more complex, sophisticated, wider ranging food is part of the post-war experience, so is dieting and both getting fat and skinny. And you talk about how
I've
you
done both.
decided, yeah, you were not going to be husky. You were husky no more. Talk about your dieting issues and what that
I didn't.
speaks to in food consumption.
I think that through most of college, I was relatively fit because I delivered pizzas for a living. So it was a
Mhm.
huge amount of running up and down stairs. So I didn't try to not be husky. It was just part of life.
Yeah,
My life is that my body didn't do that. But then I got husky again later. Certainly after the birth of my child, after the birth of my
yeah.
daughter. I went total dad bod plus. Although I don't really appreciate that term. But when I did finally realize that something had to change, when I did finally realize that something had to change, I decided to create a diet that was based on what I had to have, not what I couldn't have. The couldn't list was relatively small. And some things were only allowed once a week, but mostly I had to focus on what I needed from a good nutrition level. And that allowed me to lose a great deal of weight. The problem was that I had not set a goal and kind of lost my mind after I lost
Mhm.
about 50 pounds, because after I lost about 50 pounds, I kind of became another person.
Mhm.
I looked like another person. I didn't recognize myself anymore. And I ended up going through a really traumatic psychological period
Mhm.
after I'd lost the weight, not
Right.
before. I wasn't, and
So
nobody ever.
you could be too thin, right?
Well, look, everybody will tell you that you can be too thin.
Mm.
It's why
Yeah.
we have anorexia problems. For me, it was simply a matter of, personal identity. Who
Mhm.
are you? Who is this person looking back at me in the mirror? And by the way, I never saw a thin person. Even when I was down to 165 pounds, I didn't see thin.
Right.
I just saw someone else that
Mhm.
wasn't me. When you lose your visual identity with yourself, you can go a little crazy. That's what
Mhm.
the invisible man is about. Once you can't really be seen,
Yeah.
what are you? And I think that more people should probably talk about that. So I'm back to Husky. I'm
Yeah.
Husky.
All
And
right.
that's who I am. I'm Husky.
Is
I try to stay fit. I try to eat well, but I'm Husky. And I'm mostly Husky because I like alcohol.
yeah.
And I'm not willing to give up alcohol to not be Husky. So,
You invoked the concept of dad bod. Is
which I hate. I
is
hate
it
that expression very much, but it is a
well?
thing.
Yeah, and I mean, is it good now? We seem to have a wider range of kind of positive body types, and you can be gigantically fat and obese where you need a motor scooter and things like that. I think most people would agree that's bad, but are we more forgiving of body types now than we used to be? And if so, is that a good thing?
I think we say that we are.
Hmm.
I think we say that we are. I don't think we actually are.
Yeah.
We're animals.
Yeah.
We're still animals, and we say that we are. We
Yeah.
pretend to be. And I think that the important part of that is that media is what got us into a lot of trouble.
Hmm.
The media around fashion certainly has. It has become more accepting. I think it's interesting that more body types are considered acceptable and beautiful, and
Hmm.
in when it's women than men. Uh, I think that dad bod is almost universally looked down on as
Hmm.
weak as no so I think there's a bit of a contradiction going on there that I hope will work out. But I think that what we need to focus on, by and large, is simply being healthy, and to
Yeah.
understand you can be healthy and have different sizes and shapes. That's called genetic.
Right. Yeah.
That's genetics. My genetics want me almost universally to stay at exactly the same weight. My weight has not changed a pound in the last 3 years. It's a husky, but I've never had a cavity.
Hmm.
Genetics,
Wow.
Now, can I go out every morning and run 5 miles and work out and blah 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 and be lighter? Yes. Am I going to? Odds are no. I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna do it
Yeah.
because I don't like it. So there.
What's your take on drugs like Ozempic and other things that make, there has always been such a moral equation of, that if you're fit, you are morally superior. And now we seem to be in an era where maybe you can look good in a pair of jeans. You don't have to go husky. And it's not because you've really changed anything in your moral character.
Ah, the moral value of restraint. A lot of these drugs are, first of all, we can't just look at them as weight loss drugs, because a lot of these drugs are proving to have a lot of effect in other areas,
Right.
and a lot of other areas of health. I am not a doctor. Do not play one on TV. I
Hmm.
read a lot, but I'm not about to get into the discussions of certain rare cases of diabetes or
Hmm.
any of these other things. I will say this: medicine should cure things, right? And then allow you to go on your way without it.
Hmm.
If you break your leg, you get a crutch. The crutch lets you walk until your leg heals. There's nothing wrong with a crutch. Do you want to walk on it for the rest of your life?
Hmm.
I personally wouldn't. I would strive to live my life to not be in a mobility scooter all my life, because I don't like the
Right.
technology. Whatever it is, I think the goal is to get yourself to where you don't need it anymore. What I'm afraid of is that that is not going to be what happens with these drugs.
Mhm,
People realize I can eat the family bag of Cheetos and
mhm,
still look like this, which is kind of a weird kind of bait and switch when you think about it. So
mhm.
I hope, but I have no faith that these drugs will be used with restraint to get people where they need to go, because there are a lot of folks that don't. I mean, look, I've asked myself, would I take it? I would love to look better. I know what I look like
Yeah.
when I come out. I see myself. I'm realistic. No, no, because I earned this. I don't have a medical
Mm.
problem. I earned looking like this. You know
Yeah.
why? I put things in here.
Yeah.
Usually like martinis and things that, so no, I'm not going to do it. But I do think that for people that do use these, if it is really radically changing their health, and obviously for the better, they should do it. I would look to, 6 months down the line, is there a way to
Yeah.
not live your life with this? Is there a way to live sustainably? But I don't think that is what's going to happen. Because
You've been outspoken in talking about how the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Food and Drug Administration are not particularly good, who are involved in these kinds of drugs, as well as, various kinds of food pyramids or
Mhm. Yeah.
portions on
Which have
plates.
almost
And
always been designed for industry.
yeah.
These
So yeah,
organizations, the USDA was created to support industry,
yeah,
not to protect consumers.
yeah.
And we,
Yeah.
the great protector of our health. Look, organizations like the USDA should absolutely have hard and fast labeling rules, quality rules. You shouldn't be able to say one thing when it's another. I don't even think you should be able to take a container of corn oil and put the label gluten free on top of it.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, it is, but there's no gluten in corn,
Right.
so I think that we need better controls on what goes into food. I think we need warning labels. I think that a bag of Cheetos should be labeled like a pack of cigarettes, because in the end the level of damage is, I would say, close to the same, if
Yeah.
not worse. um, but the,
But
the thing that
these agencies don't work to change. I mean, I
No,
mean,
we need
would that ever
education.
happen?
We need
Yeah. Okay.
education. We
Hmm.
need I used to say that the culinary and nutritional education should be in the home. It's not
Hmm.
realistic anymore. I don't know any parents that can fight phones and iPads and social
Hmm.
media. No, we need to be like the Japanese. We need to have home ec in school from about age 6 to graduation. Absolutely, we need that. And
Discuss the Japanese experience then.
well,
How
the
how does
Japanese
that work in
experience
a
is that they
way that?
they have they have a home ec course that does everything from teach you how to balance a bank book
Mhm.
through nutritional training. And of course, they
Yeah.
put a lot of good nutrition on the table in their restaurants. So granted, we're talking about a country that has a
Mhm.
very homogenous cuisine, right?
Mhm.
Japanese cuisine. Now, there's a lot of different types of Japanese cuisine. But the point is they put a lot of emphasis on the fact that if you teach someone about nutrition, a child about nutrition, and empower them, whether it's shelling the peas or draining the tofu, whatever it is, they
Mhm.
then go home and engage in their families in a more
Mhm.
team-like way, which is the probably the most important part of the model, is that it makes them better family members. Now you're talking about
Mhm.
families that have, are preparing meals together the way that perhaps American families don't anymore. But by doing that and by getting the child engaged and empowering them with knowledge and skills, they eat better and they tend to be better family members, which eventually is going to
Mhm.
make a better societal member. If we don't get culinary and nutritional training into schools, I don't know what will happen,
Mhm.
because obesity, people don't want to admit what a problem obesity actually is, because two industries thrive on it: the food industry and the medical industry
Mhm.
thrive on it. So I think we're being farmed, basically. We're
Hmm.
being farmed.
Are you